Another beautiful day on this learning platform. Welcome! In this video, I will discuss Russia-China, and the US World War III is upon us. Make sure to watch this video till the end. Let's get started. Russia is at war, and if they succeed in Ukraine, they won't likely end there. With the assistance of the EU, Lithuania has stopped the flow of economic and military supplies to the Russian enclave of Kaliningrad, causing Moscow to threaten an invasion. China flexes its muscles in retaliation, threatening the United States and its continued support from across the globe. The United States takes Taiwan's fears of a third world war very seriously, and they are increasing by the day. We first need to understand what the US's potential adversaries are doing, because we can debate how the US is preparing for the Third World War. In its long-standing effort to overtake the United States as the preeminent superpower, China has been preparing for conflict with the US. China currently lacks the prerequisites for becoming a global superpower, which the US currently feels alone. But with its breathtaking economic and military development, it may take less than 10 years for the Chinese Communist Party to project power throughout the globe. As part of its preparations for a confrontation with the West, China aims to dethrone the United States as the global economic superpower. In the wake of economic warfare against the US, and to accomplish this goal, it also has safeguards to protect its own interests. It introduced the Belt and Road Initiative in 2013. This incredibly ambitious plan called for the construction of new land and sea trades routes around the globe in order to economically link China with countries from Europe to Africa. The country has spent in both its own infrastructure and the construction trade of infrastructure in other countries in order to accomplish this. However, China's cooperation with host countries is frequently very predatory. For large-scale projects like seaports and rail yards that promise economic prosperity, they provide financial loans. However, the terms of those loans often man-made, that Chinese companies must be hired to do the construction. The interest rates on debt traps are frequently so high that a poor third world country is certain to default, leaving few jobs for locals. Clauses like China owning exclusive rights to the infrastructure it develops for periods as long as a century are included in the consequences of defaulting. It is in essence a modern version of soft colonialism. China intends to exert significant influence over Asian trades and goods. Africa and the Middle East place it in a strong position to control geopolitics within its expanding sphere of influence. The next step in China's preparation for conflict with the US is to secure its opposed and exposed trade routes through the South China Sea, as well as the area's extremely valuable oil and natural gas deposits and remaining productive fishing grounds. In 2013, the creation of artificial islands marked the beginning of this endeavor, which persisted unhindered in defiance of a global judgment rendered by the court in The Hague. Claims of economic exclusion zones surrounding them and the construction of such islands were the result of illegal foreign coercion. Accidentally and additionally, it did not stop China from stealing the claims to oil supplies made by nearby countries like Vietnam, or from using its coast guard to bully and intimidate other countries' merchant and fishing ships into leaving their own territorial seas. Now highly fortified military installations, these islands featured modern missile defense runways, long enough for long-range attack planes, and constantly expanding surveillance network. All are designed to find, monitor, and destroy the US Navy. A number of new ships have been added to the People's Liberation Navy, which is now formally the biggest in the world, as part of additional plans. With Russia's increased belligerence in Europe, China's second aircraft carrier recently quickly went online, and in a few years will be ready to combat, significantly expanding the CCP's reach in all the key sea and air domains. There is grave concern that the two countries may work together to try to overthrow the current world order, which is currently headed by the United States. Despite its growing capabilities, China still lacks the ability to defeat the US head-on, so it may try to divert US focus by collaborating with Russia. America was consequently forced to choose between battling the China in the Pacific or Russia in Europe for decades. The United States continued its practice of fielding a military force strong enough to engage in the win two parallel battles, wars with foes that are close by. The United States have been forced to accept that it may only be able to defeat one adversary at a time as a result of China's rapid ascension, making it formally impossible to do so without bankrupting the country. The issue is how the US is getting ready to do that, considering the likelihood that China and Russia will initiate a third world war. First, despite China's numerically superior navy making the situation in the Pacific appear dire, the true indicator of naval strength is not the quantity of ships but rather the quantity of battle force missiles. These are the total weapons that both navies are capable of using against one another. Compared to the estimated 2,000 missiles in the plans, the US keeps about 10,000 missiles. However, those figures have shifted and will continue to change as China files bigger ships and the makeup of both navies changes. According to estimates, China may have reduced the gap in battle force missiles to 2/3 of American powers by 2030. The region that will most likely to the epicenter of the World War III is where the US's first line of defense against China is located. After the communists drove the nationalists from the mainland in the wake of World War II, Taiwan, a tiny democratic country, separated from the mainland, which at that time the once dictatorial regime has evolved into the thriving democracy that has re-insisted unity and submitting to the Chinese Communist Party's rule. In addition to the growing global conflict between autocracy and democracy, Taiwan needs to be secure for significant political and economic reasons. First off, Taiwan makes about 50% of the world's semiconductors after American businesses stopped doing so because it was too expensive. Every single gadget in your life in the worldwide economy depends on semiconductors. Quite literally runs on them, and they've become as precious as a commodity as gas and oil. Between 25 and 30% of the world's stock of semiconductors are made in China. Therefore, in China were the annex Taiwan, it would be in charge of 75% of the world's supply of semiconductors. By simply refusing to sell semiconductors to a country it disagrees with, China would be able to effectively close down that country's economy, decreasing the West's ability to challenge China authoritarianism, time one zone, and giving China tremendous power to further control world areas. From Japan to Philippines, there is the group of islands. It serves as a very concrete impediment to Chinese power spreading across the Pacific. If China invaded Taiwan, it wouldn't just crumble. With aircraft and ships stations off Taiwan, China was able to successfully neutralize Japan's ability to resist it thanks to this carefully planned containment strategy. Japan's commerce and communication routes across the Pacific could be targeted by China, which would encircle the country and put it in danger of starving to death. If China invades Taiwan, the United States' obligation to protect the Philippines and Japan would make defending Taiwan much more difficult, if not impossible. The United States has signed several agreements to sell the country cutting-edge weaponry, including fighter jets, air and missiles defenses, and other equipments. Despite Chinese threats, U.S. military advisors have worked closely with their Taiwanese counterparts for years to prepare the country for invasion. The United States continued to supply Taiwan with weapons, and recently, President Joe Biden of the United States swiftly stated for the first time a secret in American politics: the United States will defend Taiwan. This greatly alarmed China in the event of an invasion, and the White House press corps was quick to refract the remark. However, what appeared to be a political ruse was probably just another intrigue designed to advance the American strategies of keeping China guessing. If China is unable to correctly predict how the United States will behave, how the United States must respond to an invasion. Should they occupy Taiwan? If China were to prepare its economy for a wave of international sanctions, it would serve to cast doubt and confusion among the Chinese elite. China should not anticipate American F-18s to swarm the skies over Taiwan and destroy, as Russia did after its invasion of Ukraine. Although political staging is a great way to create a strategic ambiguity for their invasion fleet, the US does not intend to go to war with China. By itself, it has contributed to this end by enhancing the capabilities of allies like Japan and, most importantly, Australia, which recently linked an agreement for military cooperation with the US, UK, and Australia, along with fostering security collaborations between the nations. The agreement will assist its arming Australia with a fleet of nuclear attack submarines. If you want to share your opinion, comment down below. And if you have not yet already, please subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon for daily interesting and helpful contents. Thank you for watching. See you on the next one.